There is a cycle that is universal to the human experience.
Yes.
It's the cycle of making a cool idea, saying you're going to do it,
Yep.
and then backing out on it.
All the time.
I do it all the time.
Yep.
For me specifically, one area where you can see this very clearly is learning a new language. I've wanted to learn a new language probably since middle school.
Yeah.
You know, I went on a mission trip to Guatemala in 8th grade. And so I got to see the Spanish-speaking world, and I was like, this is cool. I want to learn Spanish. And obviously in Spanish class in high school, you don't actually learn Spanish,
No.
right? It's definitely not like that. But I was like, I want to learn it. So I'm going to start on Duolingo. And I stopped.
Yeah.
After a few weeks, oh man, I have a 10-day streak, and then I gave up. And then I tried it again, and then I gave up. And then I was in college, and I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to learn French. Maybe French would be cool.
French is it.
Everyone learns Spanish. I'm going to be different. I'm going to learn French. Like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then I was done because it's hard, right? Like
French
learning a new language takes a long time and a lot of effort. And so I switched back to Spanish, and then I gave up again.
Yeah.
So it took like forever. And I was stuck in that cycle until I got in a relationship with Emily. Her family speaks Spanish. I had a new source of motivation, and I also had some help.
Yeah.
And so with that, I began to be more consistent, not only with Duolingo, but with actually practicing.
Yeah.
So getting stuck in that cycle doesn't mean you have to stay in that cycle. And so for me, that was my area where I just constantly made those false promises to myself. And
Well, we all do that. I mean, we all have those areas where that's it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to change. And, you may go a week. Yeah. I mean, we're coming up. It's first of the year. It just happened. And we're coming up on National Quitters Day. We're going to talk about that. But it's one of those things that when you only make a promise to yourself, it's the easiest to break. But then nobody knows you did it, but you do. And it demoralizes you. And that's the danger of it. Yeah, it makes you feel like I'm a failure. I can't do anything.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about kind of the impact of what those broken promises do on you. And then how a resource we have created, a free resource called the 21-Day Turnaround, can help you shift the narrative in that area and start a new chapter of your life in 2025.
This is the Thriving Man Podcast with David and Reese Maxwell. These weekly shows are designed to help you remove the confusion from your life and make real progress with your growth. No matter where you are or where you're going, we're here to help you live a life you can be proud of. So welcome to the Thriving Man Podcast.
Welcome to the Thriving Man Podcast, where we help you build a thriving life and conquer your everyday chaos. I'm Reese.
And I'm David.
And today we are covering this topic of false promises and how we can change the narrative. But first, let's look at the reality of the cost of what false promises are. Because on the surface, it doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal, right? Like, all right, this year I'm going to lose weight. And never mind. It's kind of, that process kind of sucks. So never mind. I'm not going to do that anymore.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it's a huge deal. But there's some real cost there.
Yeah, well, what happens is you get into the habit of failing. And failing, just like winning, can become a habit. They talk about sports teams getting that where, that team just got into the habit of failing. And there's a reality to it. And so what happens is you start thinking, okay, I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to lose weight. And then you don't. Okay, I'm going to lose weight, and then you don't. And then eventually you get to the point where I can't lose weight. It's impossible. And then you start explaining away my metabolism. It's the way my family is. You start giving all these excuses for whatever the area is. But what the reality of it is your self-esteem, you've hit yourself, and you just are tired of failing. None of us likes to fail. Nobody likes to do it. And we don't realize that when you make promises and keep breaking them to yourself, eventually you're going to stop.
Yeah.
You're going to think, I can't, I'm a failure, or you're going to just start getting real cynical about the whole change process.
Yeah. The interesting thing is the way that we behave shapes the narrative about who we are.
That's true.
Right.
That's true.
If you, let's say, every single day eat a tub of ice cream, do a ton of chips, and not even walk outside your house, and you do that for a year, I'm pretty sure that your view of yourself will not be, I am a healthy person.
No.
Unless you have some disassociative psychological issues.
It's true.
But like what you do shapes your identity. And so that can work for the good, but if you keep breaking those promises, that can work for the bad.
Yeah.
Which the good thing is that it can work for the good. You know, like for me during the holidays, I did not work out as often as I normally do, nor as intensely as I normally do, but I still worked out.
Yeah.
And the reason I still worked out is I want to maintain that identity of I am a healthy person.
Yeah.
I'm still doing something.
Yeah.
Right? But what we're discussing here is when you constantly break those promises to yourself, it'll work in the opposite direction. And you'll be like, oh, that's not my lane.
Yeah.
I don't have good relationships. I don't have a good marriage. It's never been part of me. I just don't get along with people or whatever that may be for you. Every time you make a promise and break it, you reinforce that negative identity. So there's a real cost there.
Yeah, and you see it. The example you just gave was great about relationships. A lot of guys will get into relationships. They break the relationship. They get into it. They break it. And it's funny. It's always her fault, you know. And there may be some legitimacy. Maybe you're not good at picking. And so you pick kind of the ones that are way out there. Well, then that's something you've got to deal with. Instead of saying, well, there's just a bunch of crazy women out there, which there may be, but you keep going for them.
Yeah.
So there's something inside of you that's attractive to the crazy woman. But you've got to understand it really starts inside of you. And what we have to do as men is begin that inside work. That is what changes us on the outside. And a lot of times we start on the outside thinking that will change us on the inside, and it never does.
No, you said something earlier about teams getting into the habit of losing and how you can have that cycle of failure.
Yeah.
I think a helpful way to think about it is every part of your life has momentum for one direction or the other.
Yeah.
You're never actually at a static point, you know? You're always moving in either a positive direction or a negative. Now, that's not to make someone feel anxious.
Yeah.
However, we have to acknowledge that reality. Like if we look at health, because it's January, everyone talks about health, you're always either living a healthy lifestyle of good habits that are moving you in a positive direction, or you're choosing unhealthy habits that are moving you in a negative direction.
That's true.
There's this momentum, and it can work for the bad. Which is why we have to be careful, is because maybe the entire previous year we've been living with some negative momentum. So the question is, how do we shift that momentum? And I really think that the key, if you want to shift the momentum in your life, is that you need to consistently do what matters to you.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the key. The word there is consistent.
Yeah.
You have to be consistent. It's like I heard someone talking the other day about planes and how planes have to fight the natural force of gravity.
Right.
It's what they do. And all these elements have to work together for a plane to fly. If one of those elements doesn't happen, the plane will do what is natural, which is crash.
Go downward, yeah.
And I think for a lot of us, we've got that part of us that tends toward the maybe lazy, maybe negative, maybe whatever. And we have to consistently fight against that to move up. But the good thing is once you do it, it's like building a muscle. You get stronger. And so saying no to yourself becomes easier the more you do it. The more it's like, no, I'm a healthy person. I don't do that.
Yeah.
You make that decision one time, it's easier to make it the second time.
That's very true.
And then if you do it regularly in little areas, then you start increasing what areas you do it in. And so momentum can be done that way, but I love what you said. It's consistent. The key is consistency. And a lot of men, we want to make the one-time decision. You know, we think of the guy who jumped on the grenade. Okay, he did good, but he kind of lost his life in that. Yeah, that's it.
That's
and a lot of us, we don't realize we have a whole life to live, but it's all the little decisions we make that sets up our success or our failure.
Yeah, and I think it's very important that we say consistent, not perfect.
Exactly. That's good.
Because a lot of times when we say the word consistent, you may be hearing the word perfect. Like, oh, to use the example of health, you know, that means I never eat any sweets ever.
Yeah.
You know, I love to have, you know, the fattiest part of the barbecue meat. That it is not good for me. So you're saying to be consistent, I can never have that for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
No. Consistency is all about the majority. We want to build it to where the majority of your decisions are moving you in a good direction.
Yeah.
Not perfection to where, oh, I messed up once, I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah.
But consistent.
Yeah.
Overall, you're heading in a good spot. And you're doing it in the areas that matter. That's important too.
That is important.
You know, you may be very consistent with your KD ratio in Call of Duty, right? It doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah.
You know, like you might impress some of your friends, but you're putting these huge hours into getting really good at this game, maybe while your body and your spiritual health are falling apart, right?
Exactly.
So we want to combine all of these elements together.
Yeah.
If we want to stop breaking those promises to ourselves, stop self-sabotaging, we need to be consistent, and we need to do it in a few key areas that matter.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, we have created what we call the 21-day turnaround. What is that? It is a 21-day challenge that will help jumpstart your momentum in the right direction. It'll push you in a direction of progress, and it'll help you build self-respect.
Yeah.
The beautiful thing, and you said this earlier, I thought this was so insightful. You said that when you get used to saying no to yourself, I don't feel like doing this, but I'm going to do it. Or I feel like doing this, but I know it's not good for me, so I'm not going to do it.
Not going to do it.
That's like a muscle you build up. This 21-day turnaround helps build that muscle very quickly in a variety of areas.
Yeah.
So explain to them a little bit what this free challenge is.
Yeah, the 21-day turnaround, what we've done is we've taken the 4 core areas of every man's life. And what we've done is we've given you a habit to put into your life for 21 days. And we're telling you what to do. And for those 21 days, you're going to do those habits every day for 21 days, 3 weeks. Everyone can do that for 21 days. And there's no magic formula to 21 days. It's just a matter of you're beginning to build the habit. So what we do is we give you those things to do in each of those areas. And the 4 core. There are the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual. So what we've done is we've done each area, we've given one of those things, like the physical. What's the physical one?
The physical habit that we want you to do every single day is do 30 to 45 minutes of exercise. Now, that can be going to the gym and hitting it hard, or that can be walking. Anything that has movement and activity and motion, that's going to be the physical habit that you want to do, as well as the spiritual habit.
Yeah.
Every single day, not only will you be doing the 30 to 45 minutes of exercise, we want you to read or listen to the proverb of the day.
Yeah.
Proverb has 31 chapters. There's 31 maximum days in a month. So you can read the proverb that corresponds with that day. If it's the 7th, you read Proverbs 7. If it's the 15th, you read Proverbs 15. This begins to awaken your spirit and connect you with the wisdom of God. Those are the first 2 habits. Give me the other 2.
Well, and on those, let me say this about these 2. You say, well, those aren't that hard. That's right. Do them. See, a lot of times as men, we think it's got to be hard. It's got to be really, really hard or I won't do it. No, it's got to be something you can do consistently. Remember what we talked about earlier? It's about consistently. You do for 21 days, 30 to 45 minutes of exercise. Guess what? You're going to feel like, oh, that's not that hard. I can do that.
Yeah, it's compounding decisions.
Yeah, yeah.
If you do an insane workout for 3 hours on one day, it's going to be a ton less of a benefit for you than if you do the workout 30 to 45 minutes for 7 days, right? So what we're doing here is we're taking that long-term approach. We're saying, let's invest in doing things that are good and doing them every day.
Yeah. And reading one proverb a day, you'll actually do more reading in 21 days than a lot of people do all year of their Bible. And so that helps you build that where, you know what, I do read my Bible. It's something I do. And so you're growing spiritually. The other thing we're doing is a mental thing. And what we're doing there is we have you, when you join the 21-day turnaround, you join our Thriving Man Facebook group. And we ask you to every day go on there and post one thing you're grateful for. Just one. And you say, well, what's the big deal about that? Well, one, you have to do it. You got to show up. Two, you have to think about, is there something I'm grateful for? And you say, well, that's not a big deal. But most of us never think about that.
No.
We're busy. We're grinding. We're making things happen. So we a lot of times don't stop and say, you know, I'm grateful that I have a wife. I'm married. Or I'm grateful that I have a home to live in. I'm grateful for a sunset you see on the day. And you say, well, what's the big deal about that? It changes your mental focus to where you're not so focused on what I have to get done. You're focused on what am I grateful for? And that helps your mind kind of relax a little bit. And a lot of times you recognize, I've got some good things. Because we tend to focus on what we don't have, what we're not doing, and where we failed.
Yeah.
And this helps change your mind a little bit to the positive.
Yeah, which will make you be better in the other areas of your life. It makes you more mentally resilient. And why do we want you to do it in the group? There's just a truth here. One, if we don't have other people in the picture, it's very easy to self-deceive ourselves.
It is.
And be like, well, I didn't say anything, but I thought about something yesterday. But no, did you post it in the group?
Yeah.
Because that's a very real thing. And two, positivity spreads.
Yeah.
Whenever you are in a good space and you share that with someone else, it not only benefits you, it benefits them. So we are wanting a culture here in this Facebook group of positivity, not self-deception, but looking at real good things that are going right. That's a habit we all need, and it's one we want you to develop.
And you can learn. Like someone may post something in there you've never thought of being grateful for.
Good point.
You know, they could post about their own physical health, how they're grateful that they have good physical health. And you think, well, I've never thought about that. I just take it for granted. Well, now you can learn that, hey, I am thankful that I can get out of bed. I can put my shoes on. I can do all these things. And some people may not have that. So it helps you have a different perspective of life. And it also helps you kind of know what's important and what's not.
Yeah.
You know, we sometimes major on the minors when we've got all the majors and we need to be thankful for them.
You're exactly right. And it's a very simple, short thing you can do.
It
I
is.
mean, it takes you a minute
Yeah.
to pop on that Facebook group, say what you're thankful for, and share it. And then the final one, emotionally, we want you to purposefully encourage one person a day.
Yeah.
Intentionally point out the good in another person. If you're married, that can be your spouse. If you have kids, that can be your kids. If you're living that single life, that can be your coworkers, or it can even be the Facebook group. If you're like, oh, I don't see anybody, I can't talk to anybody, it can be the person at Walmart. But if that intimidates you, okay, share something on the group about how somebody else is doing great.
Yeah.
Hey, man, I've noticed you've been really consistent sharing XYZ.
Yep.
Great job.
Yeah.
Boom, there you go. We need to begin to look outward. Part of emotional health, part of relational health is recognizing the good in other people and pointing that out to them. So those are the 4 habits.
Yeah.
You know, spiritually, read that proverb of the day. Physically, exercise at least 30 minutes a day. Mentally, post something you're grateful for in the Facebook group every day. And emotionally, intentionally point out the good in somebody else. You can do all of these things in like 40 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't take long. And it's something that you can do. We wanted it to have a balance. We didn't want it to be so hard that you couldn't do it. And we didn't want it to be so easy that it doesn't challenge you. Doing all of these every day for 21 days is a challenge.
It'll take work.
Yeah. And here's where we put a little bit more on it. If you miss a day, you start over. And the reason we did that is these are not hard. Like he said, 40, 45 minutes, you could do it all. Mm-hmm. But if you miss a day, you have to start over. Mm-hmm. There's no, you start over. I just read a story a guy did where every day for a year he walked for an hour or 3 miles.
Yeah.
And he said sometimes it was doing it at 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
But he made it a whole year. Mm-hmm. And there's something about that, I think, as men, we like to answer the challenge. Mm-hmm. And so what we're saying is this is 21 days. You can do it. If you mess up, you start over. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean you failed. You just start over. And we give you the support and everything you need, because the key in this is that you're growing yourself. Mm-hmm. You're doing something to grow. Every man's greatest battle is within. And what we want you to do is begin to win that battle. Then the other battles start coming and flowing from that.
Yeah. Think of it like a basic training for your self-discipline. We're looking at the key 4 areas of your life, and we're introducing an intentional habit that lines up with each of them. Mm-hmm. And we're being pretty extreme on it about needing to do it every single day, because we want you to earn your self-respect. Self-respect and confidence is earned, and it's the result of actions. You don't get confident just by thinking. You have to do. And so during this process, you are earning rapport with yourself. Mm-hmm. You are earning respect with yourself. You're beginning to look outside of yourself. You're beginning to be not only someone who's healthy for your own sake, but also pouring into the lives of others. So, dang, if you're on day 20 and you end up missing it, well, that's another 3 weeks of having these great habits. Mm-hmm. So look at it with that perspective, and you'll be a lot more resilient in that process.
Yeah, and understand that it's really about the small steps. You know, when I am signing up to do a triathlon, I don't start out running the whole distance of the triathlon. I start out by running anywhere from a half mile to a mile, depending on what I've been doing. I start with small steps to build up to the race. Every runner does that. Every person who trains does that. They start with small steps. That's what you're doing here. We're not saying you can't do more in the future. We're saying do something now that you actually accomplish. Mm-hmm. You don't break promises to yourself. You don't say, this year I'm going to do it, and then you don't. You can do this for 21 days. We know you can. It's not super hard, but it is a challenge. So start with these small steps, and then you'll see that ability grow within you, and you'll see it produce in other areas of your life.
Yeah, exactly. And so walk into it with that perspective. Even though this is a short-term challenge, it's going to build good long-term habits.
It will.
And anytime you mess up, get back up and keep going. Mm-hmm. Let the group know so that we can support you. In the immortal words of Uncle Iroh from Avatar: The Last Airbender, failure is only the opportunity to begin again, only this time more wisely. Mm-hmm. So the whole goal of this thing is to develop your discipline and your wisdom to grow. We believe that success is inside out, and that overcoming, you're going to have unique obstacles to you. You're going to have certain things that you have to face that I might not have to, and I have things that you won't have to, but you don't have to face them alone. That's another purpose of that group, is we can begin to help each other, sharpen each other, and as we focus on these specific things, we hold each other accountable to these specific things, we'll be able to develop that momentum in our life, real growth and self-respect.
Yeah, and that's something you can do. And as you do it, you'll begin to see that inner life will come out. You'll get stronger. You'll be able to do more. Your focus will change. And it really will help you thrive in your life. When you have the core 4 going in a positive direction, that's what makes a thriving man. Mm-hmm. And that's why we did the 21-day challenge. So we do want to challenge you to do it. It's a free thing to sign up for. Mm-hmm. You can just go to 21dayturnaround.com, or you can go to the thrivingman.com website and check it. There's even a link in the show notes. And what it'll do is take you directly. You can sign up for it. We've got videos where we talk about it. We have a PDF you can download. Everything you need is there. Then you go over to the Facebook group, Thriving Man Facebook page, sign up for it, and we're going to help you get your life moving in a positive direction, and you're going to see some great things happen.
Yeah. So sign up for it, go for it. We aren't even going to get your credit card information. It is truly free. And so go for it. And I believe that it's going to start a new chapter in your life with momentum in the right direction.
Thanks for listening to the Thriving Man Podcast. If you want to check out more resources from David and Reese, you can go to thrivingman.com. We'll see you in the next episode.